once again.
Alright, so what we're working on today is doing a little maintenance. We're going to clean the cartridges in this cartridge filter. Now, whether you're taking apart a DE filter or a cartridge filter, it's the same process. Cleaning them is a little different, so maybe we can get a video of cleaning the DE filters, a different one. So first thing we want to do with this is we want to make sure that the pump's off. Whether if you have automation or not, an easy way to accomplish this is to just turn the breaker off. Then you know it won't turn on you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the drain plug, which this one is down here. I recommend a set of channel locks like this. This is a Pentair filter, so this one on this filter works the best. I'm just going to grab a hold of it and lefty loosey. Why we're doing this is because if you don't let the water out of the tank, you'll never get that lid off, and we don't want all this stuff going back into the pool, and it'll also flush out all the junk that comes out at the bottom of the tank. A lot of gunk. I usually use the water to clean out the drain plug. Alright, so after that, we're going to use this. This is a multi-torqued tool. You can go on their website and buy it if you want, but that's about a 1-inch socket. I use an impact driver because using a wrench, it's a lot slower. You can use a wrench, but if you're in a hurry and you just want to get the job done, this is how you do it. It's important to note, depending on whatever filter it is that you're taking apart, they all go together a certain way. I see this all the time where people get this stuff mixed up. That big washer is the only one that's going to fit on there. This little one can't. When the spring goes, little washer in front. Those directions are also on the side of the tank, but people miss that too. So that'll just come apart. So now that the band's off, you can go ahead and open your air release, and that'll just let the water flow out and flush out all the junk that collected at the bottom. As soon as the water gets below the top tank, then you can actually get the tank off. If you try and pull on the top before the water gets below it, there's just too much suction. You end up breaking the air release, or some folks will stick a screwdriver in there and they're trying to pry it up, and then they mess up the fiberglass there. So water's out, this thing should just lift right off. And get the lid out of the way. And there's your cartridges. And they're all kind of under a suction on this top piece of the manifold, so an easy way to get them to release is if you just rock them. That top piece will just come right off. A lot of the times this air strainer filter will get stuck in here, and next time you go to put it on, it'll be stuck in there and not on the pipe. And this, you clean it off, and we'll go over that later. It just pushes back onto the pipe. All right, we'll set this stuff down over here. We'll get the filters out, and we will take them to the front yard. All right, now we got all the filters out in the front yard. I like to do the filters in the front yards because the main water supply that comes in is usually a lot better water pressure. And all we're going to be doing here is rinsing them down. I use this little nozzle something basic like that. Don't use a pressure washer for this. You need the actual water running down the cartridges for the dirt to come off of them. And I like to start mine in the middle so you're not flinging stuff all over your face. You just kind of work in the middle. The more dirt you get to come off of them, the better. After you get them down to the bottom, you flip them over. Get to that point, flip them over, continue down. The more dirt you blast out of these things, the better they're gonna work. Throw on some headphones, grab a beer, just clean them all up. Alright, so next step, you're going to take your O-ring off. The O-ring, all you really need to do is clean it. A lot of the manufacturers don't want you to put lube all over it because it attracts dirt. If the O-ring still has good roundness in it, it's not all flattened out, should be good to go. Just let that sit there, and then you have all this other stuff in there. Usually use a bucket, or you can just hose, whatever you want. You want to make sure that this groove right here is clean. You don't want any particles on here. If you don't do this step, you're probably gonna have to do it after you put it all back together because your filter's gonna leak. So as soon as the lip's clean, we'll just use a bucket or a hose and just kind of rinse off whatever's left. All right. Set the O-ring on there after you wipe it down. I've only done this 7 million times. Let's see. Oh, there's a little bit of sand right here. Don't want that. That's back in the groove. Happy times. Now you're going to put the drain plug back in. You want to make sure there's not a bunch of grit and stuff stuck in there. This is a little easier to do when the filter's not together. And snug her up. There's a little O-ring on drain plugs, but they They generally just need to be cleaned off too. It's a fair amount of tension that you put on it. It's a good little snug against the O-ring, and then you know that that's nice and tight. So now we'll want to install the air breather tube filter. Looks like it's threaded, but it's not. Just pushes on the top, just like that. And I spent about a half an hour cleaning the cartridges. Doesn't matter which way you put them in, as long as they're sitting right there round on the hole, you'll be good. Alright, so now the manifold, same deal. I'm gonna make sure it's nice and clean. Don't want any rocks or debris in this area. This is where it seals everything off. Air release, or the air breather tube is on. Just kind of smack them down. New cartridges, rubber mallet helps a lot. Now we'll put the lid back on. Just got to keep in mind which way you want your gauge to face, so you're not doing this all over again. You're just looking for it to sit nice and even. If you want an easy way to make sure it's sitting flush, you can fill the lower tank up with water with a hose, or turn your pump on low speed is what I do. And when you fill it up with water and you set the lid on it, creates a suction and it'll pull the lid right down flush for you. That's a good tip with the smaller filters, because they can be kind of a pain. And that'll get them on every time perfectly. Alright, so I always put this back on so the letters are upright. So I kind of hold it together. And grab my little washer. It's on first. The spring in the big washer. Oh, that'll happen. And just throw that on there. Get your wrench or impact. And so what you're looking for is this spring. When it's tight all the way, the spring should be touching itself. It's all back together, so we'll turn it on. I have automation and a variable speed pump, so I'm going to turn my system to the high speed or cleaner. Installers can label those things a whole bunch of different ways. So I just turned my pump on high speed. It's probably going to have to prime up once we had the system open. I'll fill all those lines up. And as soon as your pump starts pushing like that, then open your air release. Big filter. And close. And check for leaks, which we don't have any. You'll see some water run down the side, but from the air release, it will collect around the band and drip for like 5 minutes, driving you crazy. But yep, that's that.